Hello everybody, me Rwby here, and I'm bringing you another video. I bet you're wondering, where was I for a whole month and a half? You haven't posted in a while. Did you leave your channel? Did you abandon it? No, I really didn't abandon my channel. I posted 2 videos and then reposted 2 videos again, but for some reason it wasn't being shown, so I basically deleted both videos, and both of them was Naruto videos. Then I went to my video management and saw my videos on public. So I just had to, I only had one video that I did not delete, so I posted that one. And yeah, I'm gonna see where that video goes now. So you might be seeing one video already out a few seconds ago, or not, I don't know. But you'll see. Also, yes, I'm gonna redo that. I might redo it because I don't even know how I did it, because that's supposed to be part 1 if I remember. Yeah, well, anyway, that my enough about me getting certain things wrong and supposed to post videos long time ago. Let's get into this video. This is the Rwby video. I think I named it something, I don't remember, but yeah, I haven't did this what if in a while, so I'm gonna do it now. Just warning, the ship is Rwby x John, and John will be Ruby's age. So I don't know if Rwby is 12 or 13 in the anime. In the anime, Ruby Rose is like 12, 13, 14. Someone comment down below how old is Ruby Rose. Because she couldn't be younger than Yang Xiaolong. She couldn't be younger than Yang Xiaolong. There's no way. It must be like a few years. Yeah, like a few years younger. She can't be that because she got in. Forget it. I'm just gonna say Ruby Rose is 13 in this one, or 14 in this one. Yang is Sigma 16, 17. Let's just say that. So all the characters except for Ruby will be 16, 17. Joe or Osborn, obviously he's how old he is. Um, Crow, obviously same age, but all the characters that you're gonna see so far, probably 16, 17, give or take, give or take. But yeah, let's begin. So last time we left off, I said I was gonna go over John's weapons. Not now really, but yeah, let's see how John Ark has been doing so far. After the tragic event of the plane crash, and I don't know if some of his family survived. Well, yeah, obviously, I'm just gonna say some of his family survived, and he did make it out of the cave, obviously, like last video, and he is training to be a hunter. Now, with his new special abilities and half-awakened aura, yes, Joan Arc has awakened his aura, only half of it. Not the full power of his aura, but half of it. His semblance I will explain later. He hasn't unlocked it yet, so I'll explain later. And yes, his semblance is a part of making Grim that he's killed a part of his army of minions that he will create in the future. That is Joan Arc's, one of Joan Arc's semblance. And I say one of them very loosely because his semblance is very versatile. So is Rwby's. Rwby's semblance is also going to take a change. It's not anymore a speed semblance. It's going to be more than just a speed semblance. But yeah, I'll explain them both at the same time. Not now, obviously. Joan Arc obviously wants to become a hunter. That's his goal. He wants to protect everyone. He wants to protect the family he loves and drive back the forces of Grimm. With his new semblance and his new companions, I don't know if I gave him 3 or 4. Now, the way his companions work is simple. The more Grimm or the more enemies they defeat, the more they learn. The more they learn, the more stronger they become. It's basically a leveling up system, but for Grimm. The smarter the Grim gets, the more intelligent the Grim will become, and the more better in battle it will be able to face enemies. Now, Grim that are wiser and older are stronger, faster, and more deadly in combat. Simple. They also have more bones, basically like armor, white bone armor on their basically backsides or on their bodies. You can tell how old a Grim is by how much armor it holds. You can tell how old a Grim is by how fast it moves and how intelligent it is. It also says how much how much it had to go through to survive. So yes, Grim, one of John Ark's Grim at the moment is nearly fully armored, so it's quite a wise monster, while two of them are only new younglings. Basically, they have no armor whatsoever, and they've only just been born. So the two Grim that were just born, stupid as hell, but the wise one keeps them in line. So it's an alpha thing, basically. The wisest is obviously the alpha, and he obviously leads the pack. The more John converts, the more Grim John converts, and the more basically these Grim will join the pack. Now, depending on how many leaders there are, will depend on how many monsters or Grim John has converted and has joined his pack. So, a normal Beowulf that is basically high on wisdom and is an alpha can only control a pack of at least 50. No, 15, not 50. 15, that's a lot. So 15 Beowulfs, one Grim Alpha can control. Can't go beyond that. Two of them obviously 30, but they'll be separate packs. And with separate packs there comes a little bit of a problem. With separate packs there comes territorial problems, and I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, just remember, two packs of two different Grim with two different alphas, there'll be some competitive problems afterwards. But John will get to that later. John has also tried to convert two more Grim, but yeah, at the moment, trying to convert one Grim very safely is impossible, because he'll have to face a little bit of a pack. Each Grim in the wild roams in a pack of 6. So that means if John Ark tries to convert one Grim, there's a chance he might lose the Grim he already has. So he rather played safe for now. And sorry for the background noise, my dad is watching a movie, and this is the only quiet spot I can watch at the moment. So yeah, just bear with me for a while. As John Ark basically decides he needs a weapon. He needs to train. His first training regimen is to train with the sword and shield, because that's are some of the heroes he saw in his books. Train with a sword and shield. Knights of heroic hours train with those weapons. He also got some assistance from some of his family. Yes, his sisters are hunters, and yes, they do train him. But they do convince him not to just train with a sword and shield. They train with weapons that will basically that makes him feel like he can master this easily. Or makes it feel, I don't know, good in his hands. The sword and shield didn't really match the style of fighting he wants to go, but it did feel he mastered the sword and shield oddly quickly. Like he was a natural in it, but it wasn't his preferred weapon. But he still kept the sword and shield, obviously, and still trained with it. The next thing he learned is a bow. Yes, a bow. He wanted to learn a ranged weapon, and the only weapon he was willing to use was a bow. The guns and sniper rifles were, I guess, too much of a kick, as in his words. so he decided not to use the guns or anything until he got older. But the bow was perfect for him. He also picked up a bow staff, and if you don't know what a bow staff is, it's not a bow that's a staff. Technically it is. Well, a bow staff is technically a long stick that you use to fight with. He picked up how to learn to use a bow staff, a sword and shield, and a bow. He also learned how to throw a few knives, and that's only with the help of his sister. But his preferred weapon wasn't either of that. He liked the bow staff because it was closer to his preferred weapon, and he felt used to it. He learned how to use a bow staff faster than he learned how to use a bow and the sword combined. It took him only 3 days to learn how the basic stances of a bow staff is used. And then he came. He came. If you're wondering who I'm talking about, you'll see. First person view, Joan Arc. Joan Arc was busy training in his backyard, or in his, I guess you can say, near the forest in his backyard. He was trying to master the bow staff that he was using. As he was training, his grim that he set loose on the forest to go hunt down some grim and try to grow their pack were taking care of the surrounding grim. The 3 grim that he had went up to 4, and now he had a pack of 4 grim with 1 alpha. 2 of the grim started growing bones on their backs, so at least they started getting stronger. And the eldest led them, obviously. Also comment down below what you want me to name the grim, because I need a name for them. But Joan Arc still trained. As he hears some rustling in the bushes, something's coming his way. As we see a black-haired person, a person with black hair. He's wearing a white suit, oddly, skin-tight pants, and a cape, a red cape. He oddly smelled of alcohol, very, very strong alcohol. That just disgusted him in every way. He had a weapon on his back, so he was a hunter. And his weapon looked cool. It was a sword. But I wonder what it would turn into. John knows all hunters that have a weapon have also a long-range weapon as well. But he didn't know that this person was going to be his next teacher in the weapon he was truly going to master. Joan Arc wanted to make his weapon soon, and his sisters promised they would help him, but only if he mastered the weapon he was currently using, and also decided on a main weapon. He didn't decide the bow staff would be his main weapon because something was missing. He needed something more, and he was going to discover it from this man. First person. First person crow. Yeah. So, how did I get in the middle of a forest fighting Grim and find my way to a house? I bet you're wondering. Well, let's just say I'm on a job. Yeah, let's just say that. I'm on a job, an investigative job. Some rumors and talk about friendly Grim fighting other Grim and helping hunters in a small town here. Quite odd, I know, right? But, yeah, Osborne, the old Osborne, told me to come check it out and see if the rumors were true. So I decided also to check it out myself, because I was curious. So that is how I found myself half drunk walking in the middle of a forest that is infested with Grim, trying to look for friendly Grim that are fighting other friendly Grim that will attack any human. But all I found was a road. This road led me to a house. and behind his house a kid was training with a bow staff. Kid looked good at it. He didn't I don't think that's his main weapon though. How old is he? Should be Ruby's age. Kid looked like he was 9 to me. Yes, Joan Arc at the moment was 9. Ruby Rose is 9 years old, and Joan Arc is 9. So Crow would be able to tell how old this boy was. The boy had blonde hair. Well, it's an interesting color, but as Crow looked closer, his hair seemed to shift color. His hair was, from what I could see, yellow. No. I think me being drunk is getting to me. As Crow sobered up a bit, trying to stare at the boy's hair color a little more. His hair color was odd. It's black. Basically pitch black. Joan Arc had a pitch black hair color, which is quite odd. But it wasn't, well, his hair was pitch black, but there were few strands of hair that were basically sticking out. This hair color showed small little types of different color hair. Like there were small patches of hair that were blue, small patches of hair that was red, pink, sticking around his head, but they were covered by the pitch black version of his hair. His hair almost gave a multiverse colored glow to it, with the small strands of hair sticking out that had basically different colors on. It looked like the multiverse, or the universe itself, with some blue strands, some pink strands. It looked like the universe or space. That's how beautiful his hair looked. And for Crow being drunk and thinking John's hair is yellow, well, that's his problem. Joan Arc's hair is the black sheep of the Arcs family, because almost the entire Arc, basically the entire Arc's hair are all yellow. John's sisters, all blonde hair. John's father, blonde hair. John's mother is the only one that had pitch black hair. But for some reason why he got different strands of colors of hair in different pieces of his hair were different colors, well, he doesn't know that. But it does give a cool look to it. And even the Grimm that he's basically friends with, or the Grimms that are basically his minions, they fur technically basically gave off the same look. The same look of space, the same look of the stars, the same look of basically the universe. And their eyes were like a spinning nova, a sun in the middle of their head that spinned outwards with bright lights. Kind of beautiful, but the creepy little scowls and different armors just creeped him off and disturbed the whole image. So yeah, but their fur were oddly soft. Anyway, he's getting off track. This drunken old hunter man stumbled across him and now is standing in front of him just staring. Sir, are you lost? Uh, as Crow snaps out of it. No kid. Where am I exactly? You're at the, you're at, you're at the back of the mansion's Ark household, just beyond the gate. As Crow states, is that so, kid? And why are you doing so far from your household? Aren't you supposed to be training somewhere close? As Joan Arc starts sweating, he did not want to give away that he had a bunch of pet Grimm. I was just training here because I was looking for something to fight. That's so, kid. Uh, well, you should know, if you're looking to die so early, then you might as well just jump off a cliff instead of letting Grimm do the work for you. As John Ox states, no, I don't want to run to my grave. As Crow retorts back with, well then, you shouldn't have tried to pick a fight with a few grams. Because that's what you're doing. An untrained person like you, as Crow starts hiccuping constantly in his conversation. Crow is busy hiccuping while he's talking, because Crow is at the moment drunk, but he's sober enough to communicate with a child. Well, have some sort of a civil conversation with him. And yes, the orcs have a mansion. As Crow continues, as while Crow is explaining why it's a bad idea to go look for trouble where trouble's not looking for you, as a few Grims start waddling out of the clearing, as they are behind Crow, as they all jump at Crow thinking he's got it down. Crow pulls out his weapon and slices them with ease. There are only new Grims. Huh, he's a youngling Beowulf. Okay, so sorry about that noise, but TV's on and my dad is watching something. So there's going to be a lot of noise while I do this video. As Crow looks down at the youngling Grim, only the youngling Beowulf. I thought an older Beowulf would attack me, but nevertheless. As Crow tells the kid to gather his things and show him the way back to his house. As Joan Arc basically, yeah, he slowly shows this Crow person the way to his house. Because, yeah, he just saw this hunter take down two Grims with ease and was quite impressed with it. And no, I don't want to hear anybody in the conversation in the comments down below stating how it's a bad idea to take your strangers to your home. The man's a hunter, and hunters, if I do remember correctly, are the forces of good that fight Grim in the Rwby What If. So it's fine for John to take this man to his house, because he is a hunter and he is an adult. John sees it that way. He takes this hunter towards his home as, yes, for basically John Ark gets reprimanded for being outside the gates at this hour, and especially training on his own and looking for Grim to fight. Sorry about that last pause though, but okay, getting back to the story. Yeah, John Ark, John Ark, yeah, he obviously gets reprimanded by his parents. Obviously for one, looking for trouble, obviously for two, trying to fight Grim, three, being outside the gates, four, he's late, and training on his own. If it wasn't for this hunter, he could have gotten badly hurt. John Ark obviously takes the, basically, the, I guess you can say, not I wouldn't say abuse, but it's not what I'm looking for. He takes the punishment in stride, or the talk down to in stride. As the hunter states, it's no problem. He just mustn't do such a, how can I say it, bad thing again, because it might get him hurt. Now, obviously John agrees, obviously everything they talk, and Crow somehow gets a room in the John Ark's household, because the John Arks are a line of hunters, or a family of hunters that came from generation to generation, and they keep on pumping out new generations of hunters. John Ark is the only male child of his family, because all seven sisters are female and most of them are hunters. His younger sister, and etc. etc. There are five hunters in the family, and they're all his big sister, and yeah, they're all his sisters that try to teach him hunter, basically certain hunter things. But Crow was no normal hunter. He served Osborne, and he worked for Osborne. So he has more experience than the girls that trained, basically John. And yes, Joan Arc did ask if Crow could teach him basically some of the tricks he knows if because he was a hunter. And Crow obviously did not accept that easily. Crow stated, "Well, kid, if you want to learn some of my tricks and some of the tricks on how to be a hunter from me, you're gonna need to prove yourself first. So, a spar, outside at the back tomorrow morning, and we'll see how good you are." Now, obviously, a day to obviously Crow went to sleep. The next morning he got ready. Joan Arc got ready with all his weapons, and yes, the Grim that he sent, or that was outside the forest, his minions, came back to him, and yes, they are now basically hiding. If you're wondering where they are hiding, in his shadow. But yeah, I'm not gonna talk about him for a while. This is just John. John prepares himself to face Crow, a drunk hunter that is pretty powerful, as Crow stands there waiting. "So, kid, are you gonna take 100 years or are you gonna attack me already?" As John Arc goes off into the offensive first. First person to strike, he says, the faster this will get this over with, and how prove that he is worthy to be taught. But Crow wasn't looking if he was worthy to be taught, he was looking how far his skills are, and what he is lacking. As Jonah, from what Crow can see, is not lacking much really. It's basically John Arc prefers speed and strength. It's the two things he prefers. Get in, get out. Do some heavy blows to some very, very weak spots, and then get out. Cripple your opponent, and use any means necessary to defeat them, even dirty tactics. In the real world, no one's playing fair. That is John's basically observation, and he takes this to heart. He doesn't care about playing fair. Unless it's a match that has rules, he would oblige to the rules and stick with it. But unlike that, he will not play fair, and not especially against a hunter like Crow. John used dirty tactics, such as throwing dirt in Crow's face, trying to trip Crow, and etc., even using rocks at times. And Crow was pretty impressed with it. He doesn't fight like this is a normal fight, he fights like his life is on the line. And Crow respects that, because as a hunter, your life is always on the line. So you must fight like your life is on the line. Like this is your last breath. And that's what this kid is doing. They trained him well. The bow staff that he uses, he's pretty experienced with the bow staff that he's using. Well, John, as Crow can see, he has some experience with fighting with the bow staff. Not much, but some. Particularly he uses a scythe, so he has to have some experience with it. He also uses a bow for his long range. Interesting. He uses a shield and sword for his secondary. Now, that's kind of odd. And yeah, as now Crow has finally stopped going on the defensive and went on offense, morphing his sword into a scythe and attacking. And as soon as John seen the mold, he fell in love with the weapon at first sight. The scythe. The scythe. A mixture of the bowstaff and a blade. Basically, his dream weapon. He wanted a weapon that can he wanted a weapon that can slice, but still acted proficient as a bowstaff. It needed to have reach, but he needed to use it well. And the only weapon he saw was two weapons. A long axe. If you don't know a pole axe or a long axe, if you don't know what a pole axe or a long axe means, it's basically it's basically a long bow staff or a long stick with an axe attached on the end of it. Like some of the gods you would see, they have long poles and then they have an axe attached to it. Like executioner axe. Or literally a spear. Just a normal spear. That's some like that's some of the gosh, I can't think of the names. Gosh, I can't think of the name. All I can think of is Zeus. All I can think of is Zeus and Poseidon. Basically, the trident and the lightning bolt. They are both spear weapons, or they are both long pole arm weapons. So yeah, those are the only two long pole arms that I can think of. But Joan Arc fell instantly in love with the scythe. It was perfect for him. Well, he says that. He didn't even try it yet. But Joan Arc instantly knew his weapon was a scythe. No problem about it. He would obviously use the other weapons, but a scythe all the way. But obviously the fight continued. Not much to say, Joan Arc lost at the end. But he gave Crow one hell of a fight. Joan Arc doesn't have aura or shield or aura anything. He doesn't have aura boost in his body. Oh my god, finally, no more noise. Jesus. I had to move, I had to sit in another room just for things to be shut. No one wanted to shut up next to me, so I had to pause the video and just move to a different room. Now everything is silent. But anyway, let's continue this video. So yes, Joan Arc's preferred weapon is either the trident, the pole arm axe, the spear, or the scythe. One of the two. But his favorite so far is the scythe. Number one, it looks badass. Number two, it looks like it's his weapon. Number three, it has long range. And number four, it has a blade that can cut. That's the thing that drew him to it. And plus, he would look badass using it. And obviously, at the end of the basically fight, the one-sided fight, Joan Arc asked Crow if he could see his scythe, and Crow obliged. He took to the scythe like water. He admired it like a person in a doll store. He admired it like a child in a candy store. There we go. Even a better, even a better way to say it. Okay, thinking of ways to say that now. And Crow honestly got reminded of Rwby. His little niece, always loved using weapons like the scythe. She says it just looked cool and it might be quite powerful if a person learned to master it. And Crow obviously said yes. The scythes are very cool. And they also will be powerful if you know how to use them. And Rwby, at the age of, yes, quite young, already started developing her weapon. Crow asked, so, you want to learn how to use the scythe, kid? And obviously, Joan Arc said yes. He wanted to learn how to use a scythe, and there was nothing stopping him now. A few days later, or a few months later, Joan Arc is busy making his weapon. The weapon he would be using as a hunter. The weapon he would be able to use when he is on mission or basically fighting Grim. The weapon he would have for a long, long time, the scythe. Now, obviously, Joan Arc's scythe is slightly different. Let me show you. I think you know who this person is. Yes, this is the four horsemen death. This is the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and this is Death's weapon. His weapon is a scythe that can transform into two miniature versions of that scythe. Being handheld scythe. There we go, handheld scythe. They are very small and can fit in basically his hand, but they can both combine to make a long scythe like this one. Basically, those are more of the weapons that you see. The weapons are quite long and they can be held by one hand. Can also be combined to be a pole scythe and can be held by two hands or used by one. His pole can also extend, well, his pole where the scythe is, his blade can retract and his pole can extend slightly into a bow. And yes, there is string attaching the bow. It's not magically made. The bow can fire arrows that Joan Arc can make, or he can use his aura to create, which he will do that in the future, but not now. For now, he needs to carry the arrows on him. The arrows he fires is unique because because they're made of dust crystal. The dust crystal can either be fire, water, wind, earth, lightning, gravity, etc. And they can do a megaton of different effects. His arrows also explode. If they are dust crystal arrows, they explode with the element that their crystals are matching. Fire will explode into a massive fireball once it hits the target. Gravity will make a temporary gravity field or zero gravity field, or just make a black hole that will pull everything temporarily inside its field. Yeah. So yeah, basically there's a lot of effects these arrows can do. His blade of the scythe, or the scythe itself's blade, can be also slided over with dust to have a bunch of different effects. Gravity, zero gravity, or the black hole effect. Fire for a flaming scythe. Ice for an ice attack or an ice wave. Lightning for a lightning attack or a lightning scythe attack. One of the two. So yeah, many things you can do with it. Rwby's obviously scythe X sniper rifle has more range and is more deadly. The bullets are also instantaneous, but Joan Arc's weapon, which is a scythe, a bow, and a miniature and double miniature scythes, well, yeah, it's mid to long range. Well, mid to long range and close range. Joan Arc is more gonna be that person to get up in your face, and if I can't hit you, I'm gonna shoot you down. And plus, it will make him slightly cooler. Slightly cooler. But Joan Arc doesn't just have that. We also decided to get some guns, because now that he's slightly older, he's not afraid of using them. The guns that he's got, I will tell you about them later. Not now. But yes, he also got a secondary weapon, which is his sword and shield, and his third weapon. His third weapon is a pole axe. He's also training in how to use a spear, a Spartan spear, uh, uh, and also how to use a trident. Both the Spartan spear and trident are the same thing, so yeah. Could be designing two more weapons with two more long range options. Just saying. Also, his scythe has a unique mode to it. Unlike the fourth horseman of Death's scythe, he can add another blade to the end of it and make basically this weapon that you see this lady holding now. Yes, she is a character in Rwby, and yes, she is basically death. No, she is the Reaper. She's something about the death, or the Grim Reaper, or the Reaper of Death. She's something. She has a name of the Reaper of Death, Grim Reaper, or something like that. Ruby's and John's names will be different, and their semblance will also be different. Also, Crow has also unlocked John's basically aura fully. John Ark has now Aura Shield, and he also will be able to share his aura to heal other people, just like in the original anime. Until his semblance unlocks though. Now, now we get to the part where John Ark is going to unlock his semblance. I'm gonna tell you this now. Rwby hasn't unlocked his semblance yet. So Crow doesn't know Rwby has a semblance. He only knows that John unlocked his semblance a few days ago. And on that very same day when John's about to unlock his semblance, Rwby is also going to unlock hers. Because their semblances are one and the same. Yes, John Ark and Rwby semblances are one on the same, and they're both being shipped. So let's go. At the age of, let's just say, 18. So, if John Ark was training with Crow at 9, it would be half a year before he starts making his weapons. At the end of the year, so at the age of 10, he would unlock his semblance. Rwby at the moment is also 10, and she is also going to unlock her semblance on the very same day. Obviously, they are not next to each other or in the same house. Rwby's at her house with her family, Yang and her father. Crow, however, is going to be with John when he unlocks his semblance, and that is on this very day. John Ark woke up feeling very, very woozy and tired. Tired to the point where he could barely walk around the house, gaining a fever as well. And I know this is not how people gain their semblance, but this is how John Ark and Rwby is going to gain their semblance. So, John Ark is very feverish, weak in the body, and he can barely move around the house. He can't do straining activities. As we move away from John, we go to Rwby. Rwby just woke up, and she feels like she's getting a fever. She is laying in bed with obviously a towel over her head. Both her sister and her father worried about her. She has just been done making her weapon now. Or she was just basically done practicing yesterday nearly all day. And they think that this came on because of her hard training. Obviously, when Rwby's aura was unlocked, it was unlocked much more earlier than John's. And because John didn't have his aura unlocked, Rwby didn't get her semblance. And she wasn't able to use her semblance for a very long time. See, Rwby's semblance was unlocked at the age of 7. Let's just say at the age of 7. She went to the academy basically to be a hunter, and her aura was already unlocked, but she had no semblance. She was bullied for that. She was bullied for not having a specific power that was given to everybody when they unlocked their aura. And she wondered every single day what was her special power. What could she do that was unique to her? And not be able to find what her aura ability is maddened her. Well, it didn't make her mad, it didn't make her go crazy, but it made her try harder, training harder. Basically like Deku trying to discover his quirk, if he even had a quirk. It's basically that feeling. Like Izuku Midoriya in My Hero Academia when he tries to discover his clock. He knows, he has one, if he has one. He just tries everything to see if he can get it to activate. Now, with Ruby it's the same thing. She knows she has a semblance, but she's trying everything to see what triggers it, and she can't seem to discover it. Both her father and Yang says when she figures out her semblance, it will come to her, and she'll be able to use her semblance quite easily, like she's been using it for years. But still she must train for it. But her semblance will come to her. She doesn't need to worry. But obviously being Ruby, she still tries everything. That's why Ruby was working so hard yesterday. She was just so pissed she still haven't had her semblance, and yeah, she's pissed at that. Now, Ruby doesn't have a lot of self-motivation because of not gaining a unique ability like everyone gains when they unlock their semblance. But Ruby's life is about to change here and now. Now, back with John. John Arc obviously is dealing with the same thing. Well, not the problems with his semblance. John Arc is dealing with the problem that he is getting a massive fever, as his eyes is also glowing. His eyes is glowing a bright blue, as he's emitting a lot of aura, like he's going through aura overload. At the same time, Ruby's eyes is glowing a crimson, as her, or not a crimson, her eyes is glowing a bright silver, as she's emitting a lot of aura. She's going through aura overload, as both are basically Ruby's aura, the level of aura she has, because everyone has a set amount of aura. Her set amount of aura, or her limit, starts increasing, while Joan Arc's limit starts increasing as they both increase at the same time. They both stop at a certain point, and that's when the fever starts dying down. Joan Arc and Ruby, from the pain that they were feeling of how their aura was increasing their aura reserves in a very painful way, passed out. The next 2 days, 2 days later, Joan Arc and Ruby wakes up at the same time. They were sweating, and that at the moment is in the middle of the night. By Ruby, everyone is asleep, even Ziad, and she has a towel over her head. She wakes up, basically being in a slight dream. Joan Arc wakes up, also, a towel over his head, and wakes up from a slight dream. Crow is still there, because something might have happened to his student, and he wants to find out if he's alright. So he's not leaving immediately. So, yeah, both of them stand up at the same time. And basically, to put this in, like, your imagination, how this is actually happening, think of it as the screen is split in half. One side is John and the other side is Ruby, both on two different sides. Both John and Ruby stands up to go get some water. They are weak, so they are slowly walking towards the door and the kitchen. Both of them reach the kitchen and open the fridge, taking out the glass of water. Both pouring a glass of water out and drinking. They drink deep from the glass of water. They place the cup down and stare. They stare at a blank surface. Now, for your imagination, Joan Arc is staring left, while Ruby is staring right. Basically, it looks like they are staring at each other, but in reality, they're just staring at a blank wall. So the screen is split in half while John is looking left and Ruby is looking right, basically looking at each other, but not at the same time. They take one big breath and decide to go back to sleep. Not before they both stop and come up with a slight idea. John Ark stated, John Ark laughing to himself, slightly stating, there's no way my semblance has activated yet. It's only been what, 3 days? Rwby stated, I wonder if I got my semblance yet. Both looking at their hands at the same time and looking at the wall, they both take a breath and run. Rwby just having this instinct to run. Joan Arc having the same. They take the first few steps before they both ignite in black and roses, basically a black and rose fog. One was a petal of tornadoes, a red petal of tornadoes zipping through the house. The other one is a black mist moving through the house at very fast speed. Basically a mimic of Ruby's basically semblance. Rwby, obviously, her normal semblance, speed semblance, obviously. She zips across the room and stops at the very spot that she was standing, taking deep breaths. Her eyes dilate for a second, looking back at where she wanted to run, seeing that she just zipped through the house 3 times in a row using her semblance, and her aura dropped slightly. With Joan's eyes dilate slightly as well, looking back, seeing no trace of rose petals or anything, but he just zipped through the house same amount of time than Rwby, but he left no trail. Rwby, however, semblance left a trail of petals, rose petals. As Rwby screams to the high heavens, zipping through the house in excitement. I have it, 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 I have it. As she speeds through the house, speeding through each room and speeding around the bedroom Yang was sleeping in, when she exits Yang's room and heads to her father's room, zipping around her father. Her father, obviously being a trained hunter, son, jumps out of the bed, running to where he heard the scream. Knocking over his door, he sees his little girl running around in circles with her semblance. Basically, it's a cloud of rose petals moving extremely fastly. Yang, also jumping out of the bed, runs down the lounge only to see Rwby, her little sister, basically zipping around the hallways and the building with her semblance finally, being one of the sunniest persons she has ever seen her be. As sun as gosh. Yeah, I don't even know Yang's father's name. But as Ruby's father watches in amusement how Ruby uses her semblance that she finally got. John, however, takes it a bit differently. Instead of screaming to the high heavens, he just gives a yes. And then a small little party and victory dance before he heads back to bed. Obviously, Yang and Xiaolong has a very bad problem with trying to get Ruby to sleep, as they say that they will train Ruby's semblance once she has rested and gained her strength. She agrees and goes to sleep. Next day, obviously Rwby join training their semblance. All they can see so far is both Rwby and John's semblance are speed semblances. From what that you guys can tell, it's speed semblances. But like they say, this wouldn't be a what if without Kakashi Sensei coming out of the fourth wall saying, look underneath the underneath. Now, yeah, that was okay, never mind. So, yes, Joan and Ruby's semblance has more to it than just speed. But for what you can see, it's speed. It's just plain old speed that they're using. Number one, they are moving exactly the same speed as each other. Even though they are in different areas, they are training separately, obviously, but both of their semblance gives the output of the same speed. So Joan Arc and Ruby have the same speed semblance from what it looks like and can move at the same speed. Obviously Crow left and Joan Arc had to train his semblance alone with his new weapon. Ruby, however, has much more of a problem. She has to now implement her new fighting style with her weapon and her new semblance. As she starts with her training against her father, using her speed semblance and a scythe to go even faster than she even moves with her normal semblance. Time skip. Yes, we are doing a time skip here because I'm not going to give you all the semblances abilities. I'll expose some of the semblances abilities and explain later, but not in this video. Just remember, look underneath the underneath, because their semblances are the same, they just have different things that they can do. But anyway, I'm also gonna have to stop this video, so next video I might explain. Yes, we're gonna do a time skip. Time skip to when Joan Arc has finally entered the city for, basically he's coming to the city for a reason. At the moment he's coming to the city with his family, and they are going to get some hunter supplies. Joan Arc obviously needs a new refill of dust, but he also has come to get some info, also has come to catch up a bit on what has been happening in Beacon. Basically Beacon itself, not the Beacon Academy school, not there, as in the city of Beacon. As Joan Arc is wandering around, at the moment his family is cooped up in a hotel, a very expensive hotel, but he is walking to the nearest dust shop. It is quite late at the moment and he did some quick minute training. He is heading to the nearest dust shop that is located here. Opening the door, he scans the shelves for any dust crystals that he can find, asking the manager if he had small dust crystals that can be molded into arrows. The dust guys say, yeah, they have very little of them, and the dust spices in basically Beacon or I think it's Vacuo or whatever. The dust crystals, or the price of the dust crystals he's looking for, has increased because of the dust robbery. He says he'll take them and the manager has to go look at that. Obviously, Joan Arc, he scans the earth. At the same time, we see a Rose. Ruby Rose is scanning the shelves. There are different musics that are on the different shelves, and she is busy scanning through them while listening to one. Or she is reading comics while listening to music. Joan Arc places his music in and earphones in and also starts listening while looking through the different shelves at the unique things that, or the unique dusts that are in the store. A few guys in hats start approaching, and suits, with the ringleader. We all know who this guy is. Roman Torchwick, the famous crime lord and boss lord of Beacon. Yes, we all know, obviously, if you've watched the anime, then you would know what I'm talking about and who this guy is. Yes, he has come with his lackeys to steal the dust just like in the original anime. But instead of just Ruby being there, Joan Arc is also inside the store with her. And he also has his weapon on him, because if you forgot, he just came from a training session a few minutes ago. So he has all his weapons on him. And Obviously, instead of just there being five of them or six of them, I think there were six lackeys, there are 12. Basically, six plus, yeah, basically six more than the original. There are six more guys than the original. As each, as the screen, now I need you to put this in your mental mind. There are two different screens, one of Rwby and one of John. They are both next to each other. They're basically reading comics and listening to music. Two guys approach two different alleys. As one of them basically is trying to get Ruby's attention, while the other one spots John. As they both walk up to these two hunters, they both tap them on the shoulders as both Ruby and John takes off their earphones and say, "Huh?" As they both state that they are trying to rob them. As Ruby says, "Oh," as John also gives his own "oh." At the same time, two guys come flying out of the hallways and hitting the back out. And two people come walking out of the different alleys, basically seeing each other for the first time. At that moment, two thunderous strike as they both meet for the first time. Silver eyes meet ocean blue as they both stare at each other for longer than necessary. They can't seem to draw their eyes away. Until Torchwick opened his mouth. Ah, so, more nuisances then. So, you children are gonna... As, yeah, John Ark and Ruby shakes off their charge. As Roman just looks around and states, "Why are you standing there, buffoon? Get them." As all the minions rush, basically all the lackeys rush Ruby and John. John is the same height and the same age as Ruby. Ruby, obviously, same height, same age. They are both 12 at this very moment. Or 13, give or take. 12 or 13, give or take. As, yeah, they're basically same age, same height. Uh, yeah, there's not much different to how they look. Actually, same height, same age. That's it. Joan Arc, a little bit taller, a little bit, but yeah, not much difference. Obviously, they both knock two guys through the window, as they both jump out of the window to take the fight outside. As basically Joan Arc opens his scythe. He pulls out two handheld scythes in his hand attached to chains, as the chains lead into his coat. Yes, Joan Arc has gone through a slight change. Joan Arc wears a coat over his body at all times. This coat goes over his arms and basically covers most of his body. It also covers his face. Ruby, obviously, she still has her hoodie, so yeah, she still has that, but a hoodie has more of a coat vibe to it because she has red sleeves now. That's the only difference. She has red sleeves now and a cape. Joan Arc has it's a coat that is long enough that covers his body. Yeah. So they both jump out as Joan Arc equips his two scythe blades as Ruby brings out her scythe. They both look at each other's weapons, and then turn back to the fight. The lackeys start rushing them as Ruby and John go into back-to-back fights. Obviously, John Arc eliminating with swipes of his two-handed blade scythe and blocking blades. He blocked one blade with his scythe that was going to cut his arm off. As he cuts the man's torso, obviously doing blunt damage because they don't want to hurt the people. The blades can't really pierce flesh, while Joan Arc has made sure it can't pierce flesh. Otherwise, he would be going to the police by now, and you would be seeing blood. Rwby obviously doing good, using the momentum that she gains to get an upper hand on speed. John using strength and precision with speed as well. Both of them land back to back as they keep on fighting lackeys, and there are two left. Joan Arc obviously seeing his last one, and Rwby seeing her last one. They both go for the two unsuspecting lackey. Joan Arc using his scythe and pulling the guy closer to him, basically being like Scorpion and saying, "Come here." Rwby using a semblance, basically speed blitzes, and I say speed blitzes the guy instantly, basically instantly taking him out. As we see Torchwig walking out. If you want a job done right, do it yourself. Dropping a cigarette, crushing it, and opening his cane. Boop. The top opens up as he fires him. Basically a bright missile, I guess you can say. The missile explodes. Boom. And all you see is a to be continued sign. Dun 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 bum 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 bum. I have to add, gosh, since I don't know how, since I can't edit with this thing because I have very little space, so I have to make do with some tricks of my own. I can't edit because I have very little space, so yeah, I have to do something. But yeah, that's it for this what if. On the next what if, we do basically Roman Torchwick escaping. Then we do some deep diving into Rwby and John's semblance, and then we go into Beacon, and yeah, so on. See you in the next one, guys, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and bye.